Live. This is our semi-weekly show where I catch you up, talk about the common comments in my videos, talk about the new videos, and of course what might be coming up next. Appreciate you taking the ride home with me. Makes life a little bit easier when there's someone to chat at. So again, thanks again. Let's see here. Let me get the live chat up here, even though I probably won't be able to pay too much attention to it. So let's talk about the last couple of videos that went out and see if I can get some of your feedback and tell you a little bit of the insight and the big one that I'm working on right now. So the last couple of videos, the two big videos I've put out have been around the eWin gaming chair, which seems a little weird and off the pillars for Monroe World, right? But there's an interesting story behind that. And then I also finally got around to doing some Commodore 64 stuff with the controller and the user port. But listen, I'm way backed up on Commodore 64 stuff. You don't have to worry about it. There's plenty of that in the pipeline. But I do have a lot of product laying around that I need to get to. And I know that it's not always interesting. Those coming for Commodore 64 stuff aren't necessarily interested in budget audio. But yeah, I've got one more big audio in the pipeline that I need to do. It's actually already in the can. Well, the talking head piece of it's in the can. But it's a really exciting product. And since you guys are here early, I'm going to tell you a little something about it. So this company, I'm going to keep that a secret for the video because that'll be fun. But a company reached out to me and said, hey, we've got this streaming box we think your viewers would like to see. And, you know, again, I got to do the budget audio thing and CD players, yada, yada. And I'm like, yeah, streaming, no, not really my bag. I don't have a Spotify account. I don't have a Qobuz account or Tidal. The only thing I'm really interested in is buying CDs, ripping them, and then streaming them from Plexamp, right? That's my thing. So I turned them down. I said, thank you so much. And it was a nice box. It was, you know, somewhere in the $260 range. And so, you know, typically speaking, little channels like mine don't tend to get the higher end stuff. So it's like, man, I don't want to turn it down, but, you know, I want to review stuff I have some passion about, right? So I turned them down and said, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And normally when you turn down a collab like that, then everything is fine and they just say, oh, okay, thank you, bye. Well, they wrote back and said, no, listen. Okay, we know it's streaming, but it does other stuff too, and we really think that it would improve your PC sound. And I'm going, okay. Now I'm kind of interested because I've been plugging in these DAPs, or digital audio players that turn your PC or other USB input and run it through their own DACs, their digital to analog converters. So I'm just kind of excited about that concept. And finally they wore me down and I said, fine, send it over. So I have been, the last, 3, maybe 4 weeks, I've been banging on this thing. And I'm really excited to talk about it. I mean, there's some reviews like the chair that you do because it's an opportunity you don't want to pass up. But when you really get something exciting, when you really get something you really want to talk about, it's even better. So I really wanted to talk about that AP30, right? That little Game Boy music player, which, by the way, because you're watching this special live feed, I'll set you hip. They did finally release a new firmware version, which does fix a couple of problems. I have not retested the DSD-256 playback. As you know, that was a problem. But the favorite stuff for me still isn't fixed, and to me that's the biggest problem is the favoriting system isn't to my liking. So yeah, so I've got that streaming box. You guys are not going to want to miss that. Even if you're not like super interested, there's a lot of good stories behind it, and I know some of you tune in for the stories, and others of you wish that I would just shut the hell up. So that brings us to our comments for the week. Most of the comments fall across the majority of the big ticket videos that I've done lately. Obviously, the Commodore callback is still generating a lot of interest from you folks. And many people like to drop in because they don't like the title. Nobody asked for this. Well, I'm asking for it. And they get all defensive. And it's like, okay, listen, and I know those of you who tuned in last week know this, but I don't always pick the title that wins, right? I set up 3 titles on YouTube for every video. YouTube decides what y'all want to see. And whatever drives traffic, whichever engages you, that's what YouTube picks. So even though I may not have liked the nobody wanted this, YouTube decided it was the better pick. That's because you guys engaged with it. So there you go. But I'm always answering the same thing. I need something more basic. I need something for my kids. I want something for my mom. I couldn't use another flip phone because I have to have WhatsApp. Blah, blah. It's all the same stuff, right? And I'm answering the same questions pretty much over and over again. That's okay. I'm saying the same things. But one person actually wrote, and I thought this was an interesting one, because I mentioned that there's not going to be any camera post-processing on the Commodore phone, right? Because right now, if you have, I can't hold it up because I'm recording on it. If you have a modern day smartphone, iPhone, Samsung Galaxy, Google Pixel, you're not taking real pictures with that. I think most people understand that, but let's talk about that for a minute, because this is something when I try to explain lack of utility to people, it's really hard to quantify. But photographs, if you take a picture with your phone, you are not getting the picture that you took. And I think everybody's kind of on board with that. There is post-processing happening. Not taking people out of the picture, not object removal, not, AI generating the sides or anything like that. It's doing things for you with those photos. Now, unless you're crazy Instagram, social media people, you probably leave it on automatic and you shoot the picture, right? But that's still not the picture that you took. It's taking into account fixing white balancing and colors and histogram, all sorts of crazy shit that if you're a professional photographer and you have a DSLR or something like that, where you actually can alter all of those based on lighting and color saturation, all that shit. You can do that with a professional camera. But people who take pictures with their point and shoot or their phone, the phone's doing a lot of the heavy lifting, right? You're not shooting raw. You're not shooting raw images and bringing it into Lightroom or Affinity and doing all your own. Well, maybe you guys are. Some of you are maybe, but most people aren't post-processing photographs from raw images. You're not. Sorry. Your phone's doing all the heavy lifting. And that's fine, right? I mean, you want your picture not to look like a dark splotchy mess, right? You want the colors to be equal. So that is a utility that your phone is doing for you today that the Commodore phone will not be doing for you. And so like, well, I want that. I don't want any post-processing. I want smaller pictures. And it's like, okay, well, let's talk about that then. No post-processing. I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember this, but back in the day when you shot film and you took a roll down to the drugstore and it took like 7 days for you to get it processed, and you popped open that envelope when you got your photos back, and like half of them looked like complete crap, right? Because you didn't shoot them right. The color, the lighting was bad. There was lack of lighting. I have oodles of photos that look like crap, because there was no utility, right? It was point and shoot. That's what you had. So I wrote the guy back and I said, you're not shooting in RAW, right? So you are going to be shooting in a lossy format, blah, blah, blah. And you're losing the utility that you don't realize that you're going to be losing. You think you don't want it. You think that you don't want, Google Maps. You think that you don't want Gmail. You think that you don't want these things. At the end of the day, everyone likes to say they don't want it, but once it's gone, I'll be really curious how people get on with it. And I know how they're going to do it. They're going to use a tablet. They're going to use a second phone. And it makes me crazy. I'm all in favor of least common denominator for whatever you need, right? But most people need stuff like two-factor authentication, banking apps. They need all of these things. They just don't think they know what they need. So anyway, but yeah, so the Commodore thing is big, but the DVD video, I swear to God, I've got like 3 physical media movie disc videos already in progress. Scripts are being written. because you guys seem to love this thing, and some of you are maybe here because of that. So I talk a lot about DVD, and one of the things DVD, single layer, dual layers, flippers, all that sort of stuff. That video did very well. Everybody decided they seemed to like that video, and it's been constantly generating comments. One of the comments that we've been getting has been gold versus silver. Now, as far as I knew until today, I did a little more research because I want to come clean with you guys. If you find out that, if I'm wrong, I want to admit it and come clean and give you guys the correct information. Hello. You're very loud. Thank you. I want to give you the correct information. So, in the video, I mentioned that single layer discs are silver, and when you see a gold layer or a golden layer on the disc, it's dual layer. And like 90% of the time, that's probably accurate. But many of you have jumped in. Many of the comments have come in saying, well, that's just not true, because I have seen golden single layer discs and I've seen silver dual layer discs. So I did some research because I would like to know what the difference is. So apparently, you can see a single layer golden disc if they actually used a gold protection layer between like the pre-layer and the actual layer that the data is being stored. Apparently, it's to block oxidation. Oxidization. Is that, which was that? Oxidizing? Oxidizing, yeah. So it blocks oxygen from getting down to that bottom layer. So yes, there are manufacturing scenarios where they do indeed make golden looking single layer discs. So that's that. What about the silver dual layer discs? Yes, that can happen as well. But it's typically not really silver. It's just a lighter version of gold. So they use slightly different materials. It doesn't look as golden, but if you look close and you scrutinize, you're probably going to see it a little more golden, just not blatantly golden like the DVDs that I was showing. So, but I found some really cool stuff. I found some really interesting sort of forgotten format stuff that I want to cover. You guys are going to love it. Those of you who are interested in physical media and unusual DVDs, I got some cool stuff to show you. And of course, the last of the videos that people just can't get enough commenting on is, of course, ripping CDs with your phone. And I'm not sure I explained myself well enough. Maybe it was the thumbnail, maybe it was the title, didn't work out, maybe nobody read the description. This is for people that don't have a computer and don't have a laptop. They only have a phone. How many comments? Oh, just easier to use a laptop. Right, and I answer all these. This is how crazy I am. I answer these things. Listen, it says, without a computer. These people don't have computers. They don't have laptops. I know it seems impossible, but it's true. They only have a phone. Ask Blizzard, they'll tell you. You have a phone, don't you? It's like, oh, laptop's so much easier, right? Easier or can't do it at all. You have to choose. So there's always those. The other one is, oh, this is too complicated. I'm not willing to do that. That's fine. At least you know you have the option. There's an option for that. And then, of course, then you have the people, smart asses, most of them, to be honest with you. Oh, so I guess you don't just need your phone. You need a CD player too. No shit. What? There's no way to get the disc into the phone, pal. Of course you have to have some way of reading the disc. But you don't need a computer. Read the damn title. Without a computer. Only your phone, not a computer. Anyway, so those are the big ticket items that I've been dealing with in terms of comments. It's really great though, because this new flood of people that have come in because of these handful of videos that have really taken off, they're getting to go back to the back catalog of some of my videos, and I've got some really cool stuff hidden back there. But YouTube has never decided it was worthy, of your algorithmic look. And so people are actually finding some of these older videos, and it's really, really cool. Some of them I forget I even did, right? It's like, oh, crap, I did do one on that, didn't I? And they'll come up and it'll be like, oh, this is so cool. Didn't know about this, like the Directory Opus. I mean, at least a couple times a month, I get somebody from the Commodore Amiga days, and they're like, oh my God, Directory Opus, I didn't know it was on PC. This is so great. Thank you for your videos, yada, yada, yada. So I like that. I like seeing some of the older videos get some traction. I mean, listen, I try to do quality work across the board. So whether it's something small or big, I'm going to try to, give you guys some good info. Oh, the other thing too is people don't like, apparently, the I guess they would call it fluff or rambling or whatever it is. The ripping CDs on your phone, a lot of the comments I get was, just get to the point, you ramble too much. This guy likes to hear himself talk. And it's really funny because I'm not running a TikTok channel here, right? My goal isn't to entertain you in 27 seconds. I have more time than that. I don't do short form videos. You don't see a lot of shorts from me, right? I don't do short form videos because that's never the whole story. That's never enough. Retro gaming radio, passenger seat radio, dual screen radio, these podcasts that I've done over the last decades, they've all been popular because people want that background information. They want the buildup. They don't just want the happy path. Anybody can give you happy path. And when I say happy path, I mean getting from A to Z without understanding what you're doing, how it works, or why you might want to do it this way. And if something does go wrong, I like to include it so that you see it. Because you might see it too. And if all I showed you was the perfect version that took me 50 takes, that's doing you a disservice, right? Well, what happens if this happens? Don't know, because I didn't want to bother you with my rambling, right? And give you all that extra stuff and get on with it. So I love those. I mean, it's just like, dude, go find go see if somebody's showing you how to rip CDs on your phone on TikTok, because they're going to be trying to follow the format. So I did get another question that was interesting. A little while back, I had somebody who asked a whole bunch of questions about this gentleman named Ron Corcoran. So I wrote it all down, but I'll tell you guys too, because you went out of your way to tune in and listen live. And sometimes these stories go a little out there. So back in the day, I would say, I'm trying to think of exactly when. We're talking early 2000s. If anybody happens to know the date, throw it in the chat. I was involved with Twin Galaxies. I knew the people that are often in scandal, right? Todd Rogers, Billy Mitchell, Walter Day. And in that circle, I met a gentleman named Ron Corcoran. And Ron actually got me my first job in Phoenix. So I was living up in Central Washington, and Ron was somebody that I had association with online, but never really met, or, it was one of those sort of friends. And he said, listen, we're hiring for a job down here in Phoenix. Do you want it? He's like, I'll put you right through. There's no nonsense. They'll just hire you. So I flew down here. They put me up, blah, blah, blah. And I took the job. That's how I got to Phoenix in 1998. In a long time. But anyway, so Ron and I hung out a lot. We worked together, obviously. And he had a wife. She had a disability. I won't go into detail, just to kind of protect her privacy. She had a disability. Very wonderful woman, by the way. And he had a young daughter. I'm going to keep her name out of it too. But anyway, so there was a family dynamic there. And there was a point in time where Ron and I sort of went into business for ourselves. We worked together. I mean, if you've ever been in business with somebody, you know how crazy and how much time you end up spending together. So lots of time together, blah, blah, blah. And like out of nowhere, I get this phone call, and it's his wife. I've got to be careful not to say any names. It's his wife, and she says Ron has been arrested. They came in, they seized all of his computers, they took like all of his personal shit. They broke into the house when nobody was home. She was off or whatever, and they arrested him. And nobody had a clue what was going on. Not the wife, nobody. Nobody knew. They plucked him, They broke into their house. They confiscated a bunch of shit, and that's what we knew for like a whole weekend. Like I heard about it on a Friday, didn't know anything until Monday what was really going on. Well, it turns out, and this is all public record, so it's not like I'm revealing anything you can't go look up yourself. It turns out that he was doing things to his daughter. I'll leave it at that. He was doing things to his daughter. And yeah, he went away for 30-something years. As well you should if you're doing things to your underage daughter. Well, your daughter. Let's just leave it at that. Not underage, but she was underage too. So he went bye-bye. And his wife, of course, completely devastated. I have no idea what actually happened to the family after that. They reached out a couple of times, just a little bit. They needed a couple things or whatever. It was whatever. And he was incarcerated, and that was that. So somebody who knew me from those days came into one of the YouTube comments and said, hey, what the hell ever happened with Ron Corcoran? Did you know? Did you have any idea what happened to the family? Have you gone and seen him on the inside? Since, I mean, he's here in Phoenix, locked up. And I'm like, and so I answered him, I said, basically, here's what happened. Here's what I know. There were never any signs of nonsense going on. I never got any feelings. My wife once or twice commented that he and his daughter were a little bit close and touchy. And, my wife thought that was a little on the weird side. She mentioned that once or twice. But when you work closely as a man with another man, and you're working closely together, your interests sort of intercede, and you learn things about certain proclivities about people that maybe the outside doesn't see. So it would make a lot of sense that I would know things that other people wouldn't know about Ron Corcoran. And the truth behind it is, I did know a couple of things, but it had nothing to do with his daughter. I do know that he would discuss high school girls that he saw on his trip into work. Is that really a red flag? I don't know. I mean, commenting on a potentially underage high school girl doing terrible things to your daughter. I don't know. I mean, listen, I didn't make any sort of connections, and even afterwards it didn't make any connections, but that's what it was. And so have I seen him since he got inside? No. One of my coworkers, a mutual friend of ours, had been to see him, wanted to save his soul, religious guy, wanted to go in and do good Christian things with him. And I think he gave up on that 6 or 8 weeks in, and that was it. So haven't heard a peep from him. So that is that. That was the Ron Corcoran story as we know it. So I guess me talking about that got people asking some other questions. What are the stories behind your tattoos? What's that about? What's your middle name mean? And what was the first computer game that I ever touched? And those of you who followed Passenger Seat Radio for the last 25 years, you know the answer to all of that. But I know I've got a lot of new folks listening, a lot of new folks that might be interested in the same answers. So I get to tell all these stories again, which is great. So my middle name is Raceland. It is from a book series called Dragonlance. I identified very much with this dark mage. If you want to look him up, like I said, he's in Dragonlance, and I kind of understood this character as I was growing up. Now, I'm not crazy. You don't just name yourself after a book character. There has to be a little something more than that, right? Well, if you see this tattoo right here, this is an hourglass with a sword and a staff. Those of you who know Dragonlance will know exactly what this means. No, so here's the deal. Here's what happened. Okay. So here's the story. Growing up, my mother, she didn't sleep around, but my mother had a couple of different men in her life. One of them turned out to not be who we thought they were, right? So this is very complicated. I don't want to tell the whole story. Here's the bottom line. My last name was Clark. up until I got out of high school. So if you go looking for me in a yearbook for Wenatchee High School, you will not find Shane Monroe. You'll find Shane Clark. My middle name was Monroe, but it wasn't the way I spell it now. That was my mother's doing. She did not want my the sperm donor to be party to the paternity process. So she gave me a weird version of his last name. So up until I was 18, I was Shane Monroe Clark. Name doesn't even roll off the tongue anymore. For a while inside of there, she used her maiden name, which I'm not going to tell you, but she used her maiden name for my last name. So I went through my entire 18-year life having somebody else's name that meant nothing, right? At the end of the day, none of this meant anything. And you're probably saying, well, where the hell did Clark come from? My mother had a common law marriage with a man named William Clark. When he died, we found out he'd been living under an alias. You can't make this shit up. It has to be true. He'd been living under an alias for 20 years. He got out of prison, assumed a new name. Yeah, good job, Mom. Assumed a new name, and he assumed the name William Clark. So when she registered me for school, she used his last name. So I was Shane Monroe Clark. Now, at this point in time, my real father had come into the picture. His last name was Monroe, spelled the way that I spell it. I got to know him. I decided that, Clark meant nothing. The other name meant nothing. I want my family name. I want Monroe for my family name. Now, there's no way in hell I'm going to go through my life being named Shane Monroe Monroe. Never going to happen. So in order for me to change my name, I had to go to court, right? If you don't know what that is, I thought it's kind of interesting. I told the story already, though. You have to petition the court. You go to the court. You have to explain to the court why you want your name changed, that you're not doing it because you're a scumbag and blah, 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 blah. And so I decided that my mother picked my first name. My father, the sperm donor father, actually picked my last name. Shouldn't I get a shot at this? So I decided to change my middle name to Raceland. There you go. And there's too many other Shane Monroes floating around the internet, which is why I always use the middle initial of R to help distinguish me from the other Shane Monroes that are running around. Maybe too much information, but listen, you guys asked in the comment section, I'm going to tell you. The tattoos. Every one of these means something. Obviously, there's some very obvious ones here. That one, the Monroe one, you may not have guessed. What you never see on camera is Zombies in Spaceland. My very first tattoo was this one. It's an hourglass. But one of my friends said it looks like an alien. And it does. If you got a good look at it, it does look like an alien. So I'm going to end up getting this green and making it look like an alien in a bottle. But that was my first tattoo. That was my tentative plunge into tattoos. And if you have tattoos, or you know somebody who has tattoos, you know that they're very addictive. You never really stop with one. So I just started going. And like everything on this arm is either a movie or a TV show. Everything on here means something. Nothing was picked out of a random flash book. So the story of my tattoos is I get what I want. I've got a Steam Deck logo here. I've got the Amiga Boing Ball. I got the Chicken Lips from Commodore. I've got I've got a lot of movies. The Real Ghostbusters logo, The Greatest American Hero, Templeton from Charlotte's Web, which, by the way, one of my favorite cartoons growing up. I got OCP, right? These are things that you may not see on camera. I got the V logo, Tim Burton's Batman, Michael Burton's Batman. I got Knight Rider back there, the Knight Rider display. So yeah, there's tattoo stories for those of you who are interested in that. All right, so I'm gonna get off of here because I have to stop at the store. The last question was, what was the very first computer game you ever played? And it's funny, I actually do know the answer to that one. A lot of people it's like, gosh, I don't remember. No, I remember. Because that changed the trajectory. That changed the trajectory of my life, putting my hands on a computer. That's why I'm where I am now, is because of that very first computer. The short answer is, because I know you guys don't like it when I ramble, the short answer is a Star Trek game on the TRS Model 3 computer from, it was like Tandy, right? TRS Model 3, 16 kilobytes of memory, and a cassette adapter, a cassette player to load and store programs on. This was the old shareware type Star Trek where you had like some ANSI graphics, and it was that standard deal where it's like, hello, Captain, you are in command of the Enterprise. There are, there are X number of planets, X number of Klingons, so many star bases, and you have these many star dates to kill all of the Klingons in the galaxy, return order to the galaxy. I still enjoy that type of Star Trek game. It's been done a million times. I'm sure you've played a version of it, but that was the very first game I ever played. That was the first game on a computer that I said to myself, God damn it, I want to do this. I want to be able to make that. How did they do that? How old was I? Well, the answer is, what's fifth grade? 11? Yeah, 10 or 11, somewhere in there. I was a little younger for my age in school, so probably 10 years old. Well, there you go. Your question's answered. So coming up this weekend is going to be that streaming box. You definitely want to tune in. I've put a lot of time into it. You're going to see some cool stuff, talking about some of my audio setup. And of course, if you're into streaming music, not physical media, there's plenty of stuff in there for you as well. I'm trying to think of what's next. I think I've got a Commodore video next, and then a Steam Deck video, and then I've got something else in the music area that I need to talk about. So plenty of stuff coming up. That's it, I guess. Well, listen, I had about 15 of you in here at one time. That's great. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate your comments. Even when they're telling me you don't like me rambling, I do appreciate everybody's engagement with the channel. It's been really fun. So, all right, that's going to do it for me. I'm Shane R. Monroe. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.